You unlock your phone, you stare at that grid of glowing squares, and sometimes instead of feeling connected or, I don't know, entertained, you just feel tired.
Oh, completely. It's draining.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at a list of daily chores. You have streaks to maintain, uh, inboxes to clear, algorithms to appease.
Right. Feels like work.
Exactly. And today we are decoding exactly why that happens. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are getting into David M. Sterling's framework, specifically on the identity economy and, well, the hidden systems behind audience affinity.
Yeah, we are essentially taking a magnifying glass to the mechanics of attachment. Like, we want to tear down the engine and understand the actual physics of why you fiercely defend one community or app, and then, why you silently abandon another.
And the massive, just structural error that entire industries make when they confuse your attention with your actual loyalty.
It's a huge distinction, yeah.
It really is. And our mission for you today is to give you a completely new lens for your digital life. So by the end of this conversation, you will look at the apps on your phone and instantly recognize where you are building real, durable value and where you are, frankly, just burning energy.
So true.
So let's start with the root of the problem, which is the illusion of motion versus true momentum. Because companies have become incredibly good at manufacturing motion, right?
Oh, they've engineered it down to a literal science. I mean,
Well,
picture the analytics dashboard an executive looks at every morning. It is just glowing green with motion.
Right, green, yeah.
Right, users are logging in, they're clicking buttons, claiming daily rewards, closing pop-ups. The organization sees movement everywhere. And in a traditional business model, if the dashboard is green, leadership assumes the product is healthy and the users are happy.
Right. But motion is just visible behavior.
Exactly. It proves that an action happened, but it doesn't prove that your relationship with the user became any stronger because of it.
Okay, wait, give me a second. I'm trying to visualize this. It feels like it's the difference between running on a treadmill and actually hiking up a mountain.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Like on the treadmill, I'm sweating, my heart rate is up, the machine says I ran 5 miles, the dashboard is thrilled, but when I step off, I am in the exact same room. I haven't actually gone anywhere.
That is the perfect distinction. Because on a treadmill, the motion is entirely induced. A tech company can induce motion through artificial urgency. Think of a countdown timer on a sale, right?
Oh yeah, the classic ticking clock.
Exactly. Or friction in the user interface, or streak pressure. You log in to keep your 100-day streak alive, not because you actually want to use the product that day.
You're just a hostage to the streak.
Pretty much. True momentum, however, happens when your behavior compounds and distort meaning. It is when your activity leaves a permanent residue behind. A mountain climb leaves you at a higher elevation. The treadmill requires the company to constantly shock you to keep you moving.
But wait, if these dashboards are glowing green, how does an entire executive team not realize their users are just running in place? Like, do they really not see the exhaustion?
They usually don't. And it's because of a phenomenon called dashboard sprawl. In modern companies, data is just incredibly fragmented.
How so?
Well, the marketing team sees that user acquisition is up. The product team sees that daily logins are up. The monetization team sees, stable revenue. Everyone is telling the truth within their specific silo.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but they're capturing local truths while completely missing the global reality. They have metrics to track that you are moving, but absolutely zero metrics to measure what your movement is becoming. And if you aren't becoming anything, you're just burning out.
Okay, so if motion is just the treadmill, what does the mountain actually look like? Like, what are we supposed to be building? Sterling points to this concept as the ultimate currency of momentum, which is time equity.
Right, time equity. And this is the core paradigm shift here. Traditionally, products measure time as mere consumption. You spend an hour scrolling, the company captures that engagement, sells ads against it, and celebrates.
Right? Time spent is treated as an input.
Exactly. But time equity is the retained asset. It is the portion of your effort that actually converts into durable value inside that product's ecosystem.
So we aren't just talking about hours logged on a profile page. We're talking about what those hours actually bought you.
Precisely. It's your accumulated history. It is your reputation among other users. It's your refined taste profile, your mastery of a difficult skill, or even a trusted role you hold in a community.
So it actually means something.
Right. Time only transforms into equity when the system recognizes your effort, preserves it, and makes it actively matter for your future sessions. And a great way to measure this is the 30-day value test.
Oh, yes. I found this test fascinating because it is so brutally simple to apply. Walk us through how it works.
So you take any app you use regularly. If you disappear from it for 30 days, what portion of your past effort still holds value when you finally return?
Wow, yeah, think about that.
Right. If you log back in and you essentially have to start from scratch, or your past contributions suddenly mean nothing, or the algorithm has entirely forgotten what you like, that system failed the test. It consumed your labor, but it did not compound your identity.
So what does this all mean for you and me? Are we basically paying a daily tax with our time if an app demands our labor but refuses to remember our legacy?
That is exactly it. That is what Sterling calls the identity tax. When a product fails to convert your time into stored meaning, it constantly taxes you.
Just to exist in the space.
Exactly. You have to repeatedly spend effort just to reprove who you are, retrain the algorithm, or reestablish your social standing every single time you open the app. There's no continuity. You are essentially a stranger every time you walk in the door.
Which is completely exhausting. And obviously, people eventually snap. They hit this structural limit where engagement basically goes to die, which the sources call the invisible wall.
Yeah, the invisible wall.
But I want to understand the mechanics of this wall. What exactly is breaking inside the user's mind when they hit it?
Well, the invisible wall appears the exact moment your subconscious realizes that your time equity is no longer compounding. You look around and realize that putting more effort into this system isn't going to change who you are inside of it.
So you just stop trying.
Right, your vertical advancement stalls, even if your surface activity continues for a little while.
And companies usually panic when this happens, right? Growth slows down, so they flood the zone with what Sterling calls feature surplus.
It is the classic panic response.
Mm.
They hit the wall, so they just build more surface area. They add a new game mode, random cosmetic rewards, a new tab on the home screen. It creates false momentum.
Just a bunch of shiny new buttons.
Exactly, the dashboard spikes, because users naturally click the shiny buttons. But the product is just giving them more meaningless tasks to do without giving them a more valuable self to become.
You know, I've felt this exact transition in my own life. Aspiration collapses into maintenance.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, when you first download an app or start a game, it's aspirational. You're building a profile, you're learning the ropes, you're becoming someone. But at the wall, you're no longer building. You're just logging in defensively to protect a daily streak or to avoid losing a rank you earned months ago.
Yes, your relationship with the product shifts from investment to obligation. And notice how the industry labels this problem. They love using the term content fatigue.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because companies usually mislabel this, right? They call it content fatigue or seasonal softness, which subtly blames the user for being tired.
Or it implies the company just needs to feed the machine with different content. But the user isn't tired of the content. They are exhausted by a zero-yield environment. You see this really clearly in strong products that haven't fully matured their social layers. Look at Marvel Snap.
Let's talk about Marvel Snap, because it's a massive success, incredibly well designed. Where does it run into this invisible wall?
It's a brilliant design, which is exactly why it's such a perfect diagnostic edge case. Marvel Snap built a phenomenal amount of mechanical equity. Players invest deeply in collecting a massive roster of cards, mastering complex archetypal strategies, upgrading the visual flair of their decks.
Right, the game itself is super deep.
The mechanical layer is incredibly deep and satisfying, but for a long time the game suffered a significant gap in its deeper social and status infrastructure.
Meaning you could build the most beautiful, mathematically perfect deck in the world, but you are essentially playing it in a vacuum.
That is the crux of it. You accumulate all this mechanical equity, but you have very few avenues to socialize that value. Beautiful card variants and high-level mastery are great, but without a mature community layer.
Like guilds or something.
Right. Robust guilds, shared social spaces, or credible peer recognition systems. Without those, that mastery remains isolated. It proves that even brilliant products eventually hit the invisible wall if they don't find a way to let users socialize their stored value.
Wow.
And here is the really dangerous part for companies. When users hit that wall, they rarely riot. The churn isn't loud. It is rhythmic, quiet, and almost polite.
They just silently fade into the background and delete the app. So how does a product actually break through that wall? Like, how do you move from this treadmill of features into something that compounds? Sterling points out that you have to stop building funnels and start building flywheels anchored in the meaning layer. But explain the actual difference. How does a company actually build a flywheel?
To understand the flywheel, you first have to look at the limitation of the funnel. A funnel is linear. It explains conversion. You pour 1 million people into the top via advertising, and you see how many survive the friction to make a purchase at the bottom.
So a funnel shows you where movement drops off. It's basically a leaky bucket by design.
Exactly. A flywheel, however, explains compounding energy. To build one, you have to design a system where each cycle makes the next cycle inherently stronger. You build it by creating a feedback loop between doing something meaningful and receiving recognition for it.
Okay, so I come back tomorrow specifically because yesterday's session left something valuable behind that I want to build upon.
Spot on. And that energy compounds inside the meaning layer, which relies on 3 pillars: identity, status, and belonging.
I want to make sure we ground these. How do they actually work together in practice?
They are deeply interdependent. So identity answers the question, who am I becoming here? Am I becoming a curator, a mentor, a top-tier competitor? Status answers, does my becoming actually matter to others? Is my expertise visible and respected?
Right.
And belonging.
Belonging answers. Am I socially located? Do I have a specific group of people who expect me to show up? Product mechanics give you something meaningful to do, but community gives that action recognition. You cannot have one without the other.
They have to go hand in hand.
Exactly. And putting people in close digital proximity is not a community. I mean, elevators put people in tight proximity, but nobody calls an elevator ride a community unless the cable snaps and you have to survive together.
Wait, let me play devil's advocate here. Because look at viral outrage on social platforms. People are screaming at each other in the comments, tearing each other apart. There is proximity and there's definitely interaction. And companies love it because the dashboard engagement spikes through the roof. Isn't that what companies want? Isn't that a win for the platform's meaning layer?
It is a massive short-term win for the dashboard, but it is fatal for the meaning layer. What you are describing is toxic validation.
Toxic validation, yes. A system can absolutely be designed to reward outrage, conflict, and performative dominance because those emotions reliably generate furious activity. The comment counts explode, session lengths double. But toxic validation is counterfeit social proof. It pulls attention while actively destroying long-term trust.
So it burns the whole thing down eventually.
Completely. Sterling contrasts this with constructive social gravity. This is the capacity of trusted users and healthy rituals to pull others into meaningful, additive participation. When toxic visibility becomes the norm, your high-affinity users, the mentors, the creators, the people who actually stabilize your ecosystem, will quietly pack up and leave.
And the dashboard just celebrates the engagement spike right up until the moment the ecosystem totally collapses.
Exactly.
This sounds like a nightmare for executives. I mean, if traditional metrics like daily active users can be completely fooled by toxic validation, how do you measure anything? How does a company actually know if they are building real affinity or just watching a slow motion collapse?
Well, you have to step into the evidence layer and measure the invisible. Traditional analytics are lagging indicators. They just tell you what happened yesterday. Affinity metrics tell you why it happened and whether the energy is sustainable. The composite metric Sterling proposes is the affinity index.
Okay, let's break down the metrics inside that index. The taste coherence score really stood out to me. When I read this, I immediately thought of my own fights with streaming algorithms.
Oh, we all have those.
Right. I watched one weird, obscure sci-fi B movie on a Tuesday night because I couldn't sleep. And suddenly the platform thinks my entire personality is 1980s rubber monsters. It fractures my actual taste.
That is exactly what taste coherence measures. Taste isn't just about what you consume. It is the early formation of your identity on that platform. It reveals your emerging pattern of value. So a high taste coherence score means the system is helping you develop a recognizable, refined pattern. It remembers what you value and makes your next session better. But if a platform is just pushing whatever is most clickable or heavily weighing that one random Tuesday night movie to serve you algorithmic junk food,
then the system is generating watch hours, but it's fracturing your attention.
exactly. You are consuming more content, but you feel fundamentally misunderstood by the platform. That destroys time equity.
And then there is the progression alignment score. Because we are usually taught that all progress in a product is good, right? Give them more levels, more badges, more tiers. But if that progression is misaligned, Sterling argues it's a relationship killer.
Yes, because progression is a meaning system, not just a mechanic. When it breaks down, users fall into one of 4 traps.
Break those down for us.
Sure. First is overload. The app demands too much effort for too little reward, turning progress into a grueling grind. Second is boredom. Advanced users find themselves trapped in beginner loops with no high-level challenges. Third is ambiguity. You're leveling up, but you have absolutely no idea why your progress matters or what it unlocks.
Hate that one. And the fourth.
And fourth is confinement. The progression path is so incredibly rigid that you have zero agency in how you express yourself. You might still be moving through the system, but you no longer feel like you're transforming.
You know, the metric that genuinely gave me a chill, though, was the silence risk score.
Yes. Because it is the most dangerous metric a company can track. It measures expressive withdrawal.
So wait, a user not complaining could actually be a louder warning sign than an angry customer, because the silence means they've already emotionally packed their bag.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. A complaining user still cares. They're spending their own energy to tell you what is wrong because they still fundamentally believe the system can be fixed. Silence is what happens when that belief evaporates.
Wow.
The user is still logging in. They're still completing the core loop. So they look perfectly healthy on a traditional churn report. But they stop posting. They stop sharing content. They stop organizing groups or mentoring new users.
The life goes out of it.
Exactly. The voluntary, expressive energy of the relationship has died. By the time they actually cancel their subscription or delete the app, the relationship has been dead for months. The silence risk score detects that emotional contraction while a company still has a window to repair it.
Okay, hold on. Let's say a company does everything right. They set up the affinity index, they measure taste coherence, they track the silence risk, they avoid the 4 progression traps. They have the data. They're safe now, right?
Unfortunately, no. Even with perfect metrics, a company can still destroy its own product from the inside. And this is the final structural hurdle, the executive blind spot.
Because the green business metrics on the executive dashboard can completely mask the red relationship conditions on the ground.
Exactly. And the mechanism that usually causes this is the silo tax. In large organizations, different departments optimize their own numbers locally. The growth team does whatever it takes to optimize acquisition. The monetization team optimizes revenue per user. The product team optimizes completion rates.
So everyone is just looking out for their own numbers.
Right. Every single team is behaving rationally according to their specific silos' goals. But by optimizing locally, they accidentally destroy the shared time equity of the user globally.
Oh, I see it. It's like ripping the copper wiring out of the walls of your own house to sell for scrap. Sure, the finance dashboard says you made a profit today. You hit your quarterly KPI. But tomorrow, the lights won't turn on. You cannibalize the infrastructure.
That is a brutally accurate way to describe the silo tax. I mean, imagine the monetization team introduces a feature that lets users buy a prestigious status badge for $20. Previously, that badge required massive skill and hundreds of hours to earn. Revenue spikes today. The monetization team gets a bonus.
But they just ruined it.
They have just destroyed the credibility of the entire stats system. The high-skill users feel deeply betrayed because their hard-earned time equity was instantly diluted by a credit card. They leave. The lights won't turn on tomorrow.
So how do you stop the copper thieves? How does an organization actually protect the user's equity from its own departments?
You implement momentum governance, led by what Sterling calls the affinity operator. This is not a ceremonial title or a soft HR role. It is a hard management function with real authority. The operator oversees a literal governance gate.
A governance gate.
Yeah. Before any major redesign, any aggressive monetization change, or any core algorithm update goes live, it must pass through this gate.
And the operator has the veto power to look at a highly profitable update and say, no, this liquidates our audience's stored meaning. We aren't shipping it.
That is their exact mandate. The governance gate asks fundamental questions. What relationship asset is at risk here? Are we erasing user history? Are we diluting earned status? Are we replacing a healthy community ritual with toxic engagement just to bump our numbers?
So they're the final line of defense.
Exactly. The operator forces the executive team to price the long-term relationship damage before they pop champagne over the short-term win. They protect the ecosystem from the metric.
Well, let's bring all of this together. What we've uncovered today is a profound shift in how we understand digital ecosystems. In the attention economy, your time was the product. But in the identity economy, the stored value, the time equity, is the product.
Absolutely.
We've explored how flywheels have to replace funnels, how the meaning layer anchors our behavior, and how metrics like the affinity index prove that real momentum is about who you become inside a system, not just how often you click.
It completely redefines the contract between the user and the platform. Activity without stored meaning is just exhaustion. True momentum gives you a reason to return because it guarantees that your past effort will actually matter tomorrow.
Which leaves us with a really provocative, lingering thought to explore as we wrap up. We've talked entirely about building time equity inside specific apps, but what happens if that equity becomes portable? Right. Take a look at the apps on your phone today. Imagine a future where new technology or regulations force platforms to let you take your data anywhere. Could you actually export your status, your reputation, and your taste profile to a rival platform? Or is your digital identity fundamentally locked to the walls of the community where you built it?
Now, that is a fascinating frontier. It forces us to ask if meaning can even exist outside of its original context.
Yeah. If your time equity can travel with you, the power dynamic between you and these companies changes forever, something to mull over the next time you log in. If your favorite platform disappeared tomorrow, what part of your digital identity, your time equity, would vanish with it? Are you building a legacy in those spaces, or are you just paying an identity tax? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you walk away armed with a totally new lens for navigating your digital world, fully capable of spotting the mountain paths amidst all the treadmills. Until next time.